Hello, team. It's time for the Daily Detangler. Hello, let's talk about seeing before solving. Today's episode is brought to you by the see versus solve conundrum. And I want to talk a little bit about what I've been going through in my journey to create C slides and also to help illuminate some of the things from my perspective. And then also ways to prevent accidental solutioning, including a accidental solutioning checklist I built to try to prevent this this condition from happening. So Catalyst Conundrum number 2 was on what's the difference between seeing and solving. So I pulled out a couple of concepts here that I wanted to share that really resonated with me, and then kind of compare before and after thinking as I drilled into these and how I might detangle myself and go through sharing a different perspective. So one of the things that Catalyst talks about is this idea of getting our thinking clean, and getting thinking clean is a process, and it requires practice. And he said this little statement kind of in passing, but what's the core thing? And when I thought of that, a picture like this kind of came into my mind, where drilling and or exploring something and drilling into it, or maybe even cutting an onion. An onion has a core, or an apple has a core, but there's some sort of core in the center. So all I have to do is figure out how to get to the middle, and I can just peel back layers and layers and layers and layers, and I'll get to the core. Or I can slice it open and look at the core. The challenge with that thinking was in that it was based on my perspective. What is the core from my point of view, or what's the core in how I'm viewing a situation, or based on my perspective? So drilling into this type of core thing really reinforced my individual point of view. The best example I have of this is kind of like my PhD research, where it was drilling into a specific area and peeling back the onion to get to the one essence, the head of the pin, if you will. And that was a kind of a biased view, if you think about it, because it wasn't factoring in a lot of individual discussions. It was based on only what I discovered and what only I read or what only I explored. And it was kind of a journey of one. And that's different than what's the core thing when you're looking through maybe a abstract prism. And the abstract prism has a lot of different colors, a lot of different shapes, a lot of different reflection and refraction of concepts. And, where's the core of this thing on the right? And what is that core? And how do I shape that out? And it's like, do I figure out the core, or do we figure out the core? And I think that's the big difference here, is what's the core thing from a team perspective is different than what's the core thing from my own journey, or my own maybe curiosity. On the right, I can contribute to figuring out the prism, but I'm just one of many different points of view. And I think that's the core thing we're looking for, is not what I can become an expert in on the left, but what can I contribute to see the prism on the right? And those are two different things. And that takes a lot of energy. I mean, when I think about it, his one of his comments after this was, it takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of energy to create C slides and to help people see. For us to get to the core issue, we have to practice. We have to write things down. We have to share. We have to provide things and bring things to the surface. And I used to think about that as, oh man, that's so much work. I have to pull up this boulder, or let me run around to the other side. Let me push, or let me study, let me research all the volumes of information, and let me go on trial with Catalyst and see if I get eviscerated in the court of logic, and let me figure out how to solve this 30 by 30 three-dimensional Rubik's Cube all by myself and figure out all the combinations and bring that up and show my partially solved Rubik's Cube. And am I ever going to figure this out? That's how I used to think about it, was this very heavy, you know, I guess for lack of a better word, very judgmental process on myself, where I judged myself, then I felt like others were judging me in the process. And then through the last year or two, and just kind of going through this process of figuring out our roles and providing the roles in Stone Soup and hang gliding and SES and the other areas where the team has come together, it becomes more about and feels more like the bottom row, which is, hey, what are we exploring? What am I observing? What can I build with others? How do I share what I'm seeing on my sticky pads and my C slides and have others share theirs? And then how do we talk about it? And I don't have to have the answer. I just need to be part of the conversation. And that's a different feel. That's a different vibe. And it's less of courtroom law and more of it's a lab. We're in a lab running experiments and thinking things through. And yeah, there's a lot of work in that, but that's a pretty cool environment and it's pretty fun. And the experiments that we're running can create breakthrough. So what's it mean to be on a team in a lab versus an individual trying to solve a huge Rubik's Cube by myself? They feel completely different. And that's what the work is about, is being in the lab, not figuring it out on my own. And then he shared this idea that, we have a responsibility. And the responsibility that we have is helping people see the same thing. Not, kind of putting something out there and getting people to react to it, but putting something out in a way that helps them see the same problem, especially when there are more and more people involved. So how do we get to some sort of seeing or see slides, or just the concept of seeing something where two people agree? Can two people agree on seeing the same thing? What does that look like? And then how does that become 20 or 100 or 1,000? Like the Sales Enablement Society. Like, what does that look like and how does that work? And, Catalyst said we have a responsibility to make sure everyone agrees to the problem, which means they have to see it. They have to see the same problem and they have to somehow create some sort of shared understanding, right, of that problem. So that's a thing that there's a technique to it. I've seen it work with how Catalyst does it. That he shared differences in the C slides that he's creating, and it creates a way for people to move forward. Another thing that he encouraged us to do is to realize that not only do people have to see the same problem, they also have to realize its importance, and they have to agree to its importance. And I don't know about you, but I believe it's critically important for people to work together and get detangled. I'm super passionate about it, and others aren't, right? And this is a phenomenon that happens on everything. It's very easy in today's world to just simply ignore or opt out or find something wrong, or I don't like that topic, I don't like his voice, I don't like his mannerisms, I don't, there's just all kinds of reasons not to engage, which is why, we focus so much on experience. But in the context of seeing and, seeing something new, how do we help people see the importance when literally everything we bring up, somebody can just opt out of? Also, how do I create something that's evolutionary, that it's very, very hard and almost, I'd say, impossible to create the big reveal, the big bang. I used to think inventors like Ben Franklin sitting in their lab all by themselves, running experiments, and having these innovative breakthroughs. And so I think innovation is a lone thing. It's kind of this 1800s view. Used to think that, and be in the lab was this, one person figuring things out. But ironically or interestingly, Ben Franklin said, tell me and I forget, teach me and I remember, and involve me, I learn. And I think that's what we're trying to do now, is this idea of innovation and figuring things out is a team sport. And it has to do with the level of challenges that we're solving, and the fact that everybody can see things differently. So it's not about innovating on my own anymore. It's about sharing a perspective and trusting the process that it'll come together at the right time. So another thing Catalyst brought up in this conundrum was, what questions am I asking? Am I asking questions that help us figure these things out and create C slides? He shared this wheel that he built from the Sales Enablement Society experiments that he ran. And he said, one of the things he knows for sure is that all of these are in play in order for us to scale. Yet, now the challenge is we all see things differently. What do we mean by concept or goals or plan? Or what do we mean by structure or operate? These are all different perspectives, and everybody's smart in their own way. So, and they can find value and determine value based on different paths. So how do we bring that together? What's my role in helping people see this? And what's the importance of seeing these challenges and seeing the same thing, and seeing the importance of those things before we move into taking action and solutioning, right? And so he shared these different examples of C slides. Some are analytical, some are conceptual, some are emotive, kind of hitting everybody from different angles on the C slides. And each of these C slides provides proof, the proof that people need in order to see. And it's interesting what happens when I don't provide proof. I say something like, oh, you should just go to customer. They're like, well, you already do. No, you don't. You're not going to customer. Yes, we are. No, you're not. Yes, we are. No, we're not. Yes, we are. No, we're not. Yes, we are. Right. And so that proof, what does that look like? And then how is that objective? What can I do to provide some sort of objective view of that? For example, one of the things that I was noodling on was our expectations, and we have these expectations. How do I prove that I know those expectations? How do I prove that I understand the expectations? How do I prove I can use the expectations and improve my ability to live up to those expectations? What does it mean to achieve those expectations? How do I prove that and show that, other than just saying I do it? Or, yeah, I understand what those are. How do I know? How do I prove it? And without that idea of doing the work, figuring out the logic, being clean in the thinking, helping people see the same thing, helping people see the importance, I end up in a space of kind of he said, she said, or my perspective, your perspective. This is very abstract because I can't necessarily prove it. This is an example. And what that leads to is accidental solutioning. So I used to be pretty proud of this slide. I put a lot of work into it. But when I look at it now, I built this a while ago, and improved on it. I updated it for Mimecast, and dug it up here as an example of I was trying to find an example of me accidentally solutioning. And the reason why I think this is accidental solutioning is I'm trying to help people see, but when I look at it, it's like, well, you need to move from here to there. You need to make these changes. I'm using a lot of kind of shorthand in it. It creates some confusion. It's very, very literal on one hand and very ambiguous on the other. It's my perspective. It doesn't factor in anybody else's perspective. So this is an example of an output that I produced that I would say is accidental solutioning. So I didn't intend a solution, but I think I did. So what is accidental solutioning? And I think this is an important consideration for me as I think about building C slides and trying to build more complicated things, and things that are trying to address the complexity that we encounter. How do I avoid slipping into accidental solutioning when I'm trying to build C slides, right? Or trying to build something that helps people see, because there's so much that I want to help people see in my perspective. It's just, how do I figure out how not to solution on that? So I think solutioning, accidental solutioning involves, telling telling somebody what to do, or declaring the answer, or recommending a specific course of action, levying a specific expectation, or using jargon, or jumping to conclusion, or really just encouraging people to take this logical leap, like, trust what I say on my slide. It's right. Just trust me. And that's an example of accidental solutioning. So if the what I put together meets any of these criteria, it's an accidental solution. There's probably more, but where does that come from? Well, I'm trying to read people's mind. I'm projecting. I'm fortune telling. I'm taking a kind of a casual leap of faith. I'm inferring the role of marketing to be all the same thing. So those marketers, those product people, those trainers, based on their function and where they sit, can lead to accidental solutioning. I can kind of extrapolate the major thing from the minor thing, because somebody said the word product. I can infer everybody has productitis when that's not necessarily true. Generalizing an observation and believing that observation applies to everybody, or just making assumptions about how people are thinking. All of these things can lead to accidental solutioning, and I think we're trying to set up to not do that by leaning into the team. And it's interesting, when you don't do these things. One of the phenomena that I found that I went through and I experienced over the many years in working with Catalyst does, if I'm in an operational mindset and I want to go do things and I'm wired around the how, when somebody doesn't tell me what to do and somebody doesn't tell me the answer, or does not recommend a course of action, or does not clarify expectations, or does not create a path forward, I think that they're, hiding something from me. Like, this is a phenomenon, like, of when you start moving to showing why and what, there are some people who are wired so hardwired, like I was on the how, that I believe that they're hiding the ball. So the accidental solutioning checklist can help me make sure that I'm logical and thoughtful in the C slides I make, and I can double check them. And I can then expect that there will be a certain crowd that thinks, oh, gee whiz, you're hiding the ball from me. The hiding the ball phenomenon is something that I think shows that I'm on the right track, actually. I do work outside the team with operational folks, and I've had people tell me they feel like I'm hiding the ball because I'm not telling them what to do. And I've had them ask me, well, are you leading me down a path? Do you have a hidden agenda? I remember I used to ask Catalyst that a long time ago. What are you hiding that I don't know? What do you know that I don't know? And why don't you just tell me what I need to know? What's the point of exploring this if you're not just going to give me the answer? And I think that actually shows that I'm kind of on the right track, and maybe I'm a little bit rudimentary in my focus on why and what, but it's really interesting to bump into this crowd that believes you're hiding the ball because you're so focused on the why and the what. And I think that's going to be happening, and I think that's part of the process of figuring things out. And I think it's also part of the process of building C slides, and also bringing it all together, more and more perspectives. The more perspectives I can bring together, the less people think I'm probably hiding the ball. So that's the phenomenon that I think happens when we start focusing on the why and the what in a certain crowd, the operational crowd. This can happen. So I'm using the accidental solutioning checklist to not do these things and take these away from myself, and seeing what happens with people. And that helps me focus more on seeing than solving. So that's an example of how I'm processing the conundrum on a couple critical points, like how do I help people see the same thing? How do I help them to focus on the importance of those things? What are some kind of before and afters thinking around what does it mean to see? Put some structure around what is this idea of quote unquote jumping to the answer or solutioning. And I think that's about connecting the dots over the course of the time together as we've tried to explore what to produce and how to produce it in a team environment. There's a lot of dots to connect, and providing those outputs in a way that are connectable, right, is an important part of the process, which means chipping away at seeing and not the big bang. So that's my daily detangler for today. I hope this is helpful in helping unpack some of the conundrum components, and just hopefully it's helpful seeing kind of the before and the after view and some of the things that I've wrestled with in the past with and even today with seeing versus solving. Okay, have a great day. Take care.